Welcome to the Limited to Limitless Spotlight. I'm Lisa Murphy, your hostess. And today we're spotlighting Stephanie Colon. Stephanie spent 25 years in banking and started as a teller, working her way up into senior leadership. So when she talks about how organizations develop people, she's not guessing, she's watched it from the inside for 2.5 decades. Today, she owns Stephanie Colon Consulting in Lakeland, Florida, helping businesses grow through business development strategy. And she speaks on what she calls communication intelligence, because companies promote people every day and never teach them communication as leaders. That gap costs real money, and nobody's measuring it. She said something that stopped me when I read it. You already know what you need to say, you just keep softening it. We're going to dig into that today. Stephanie, welcome to the spotlight.
Thank you, Lisa. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's so great to have you. And I will tell our listeners that I've known Stephanie for a little while now. So I am so excited to have her as a spotlight because what she's doing is so very important, especially in our small businesses. So let's start with the 25 years in banking, from teller to senior leadership. What did that climb teach you about how organizations actually communicate?
Wow. Okay. So, starting as a teller and working my way up, I think the climb through all of that it took a long time. Obviously, it's not something that happened overnight. And I think that the communication behind it, was simple. Back then it was a kind of a one size fits all, work hard and get noticed, put your head down, and then get noticed, and we'll eventually move you up. It was kind of that mindset, that old school mindset. I think that it kind of still plays out in the world today. People have to prove themselves, which kind of stinks. Sometimes, right? I know if you are an entry-level employee, yes, you have to come in and do your time, and you've got to show your ability and effort to learn and earn, or earn to learn, or learn to earn. I think it's learn to earn. It just teaches me like it's a one size fit all, or taught me a little bit. It's kind of like a one size fits all communication. And the truth is it's not. It's not a one size fits all communication. It's different for everybody.
So what does a typical client look like when they first call you? What is it that's keeping them up at 3 a.m.?
Well, it depends. I think it could be tension in the workplace. It can be a lack of productivity. It can be a lack of cohesive collaboration. Those kinds of things in the workplace that kind of even drama, if you will, for lack of a better term, can keep business owners awake. And when there is tension or drama in the workplace, not a lot gets done because the focus is so around the feelings versus the issue.
Absolutely. And you say that organizations have never built communication intelligence into how they're developing people. So
yeah,
where does that break first? Is it in the leader or is it in the team?
I think it obviously has to come from the leader, because the leader sets the tone no matter what. They are the weather makers. So if the leaders are having bad days, possibly everybody else is going to have a bad day. I was as a leader, my team would tell me, like, we could tell by the look on your face whether we were going to have a good day or not. I'm like, oh, I'm going to change the look out on my face. But that's just an example of like where it comes from. It definitely starts at the top. And communication isn't just words that we say. It's body language, it's facial expression, it's our movement, our intent when you're walking across the office. If you're slow and easy, then it's a pretty chill kind of day. If you are intent and moving quickly, something's going on and it's a hurried day. It can be that kind of mindset based on the simplest thing as your stature and the way you walk into the building.
Now, I've always said that burnout is contagious, and it's because that we communicate through more than just words, right?
Yes.
So What would you say is the most expensive communication failure you've watched a business make?
Wow. Yeah. Just lack of expectations, not verbally communicating what the expectations for the team are, and for each role. Every role is different. So, and everyone has a skill set that's different. And where people excel and other people don't, I don't believe in playing to your weaknesses. Like, why bother? I mean, if you are not good at something, let the person that's good at it do the thing, right? Why put so much effort and time and money into something that you're not good at? For example, I'm not necessarily the best person at designing things, even though I feel like I am, but I've been told over and over again. So now I let somebody else do that. And they design things for me. But I enjoy it, even though it looks like crap. But, from a marketing standpoint, right? I'm just saying. So I'm good at marketing. Yeah. So like I'm good at marketing in different ways, but to actually draw it and design it, I'm not good at that. So I let other people do it. And that's my point. You can't, playing to weaknesses is dumb. I mean, sure, people need to learn from it, or learn how to get a little bit better with it, of course, and be a little bit, like that 1% better. But honestly, if you're really good at something, focus on what you're really good at. Stop wasting time and energy on the things you're not.
Absolutely. I say stay in your zone of genius.
Yes.
So what happens to a growing company that keeps promoting people without teaching them to communicate as leaders? And it's important to emphasize that, right? As leaders.
Yeah. I think what happens is that morale goes down, productivity, and then which of course affects productivity, which of course affects the outcome of revenue. So I think that when we are not, as leaders, if we're not communicating well, or if a leader in a company isn't communicating well, then people don't know what to do, and it can be confusion, and confusion causes chaos. And again, it just slows down efforts and it slows down productivity.
Yeah, that's so true, Stephanie, right? So in your opinion, what does that cost in real numbers, turnover, lost deals, or even hours?
Yeah. So, I had an employee once that I think they were just unhappy with their job and their role. They wanted more, and they eventually left. And I was kind of a middle manager at that point, and communication would come sporadically. It was a bigger institution, so it really was watered down by the time it got to us and then to her. And in those cases, you're looking at, okay, now I've lost an employee who actually was a really good employee. Now I've got to replace her salary, right? So all that time we've spent training, coaching, teaching, engaging her, giving her different tools, spending the money on doing all of that, it can equal up to hundreds of thousands of dollars every time somebody comes in and goes out or quietly quits. Same thing with leaders when they're unhappy because their supervisor isn't communicating with them well, and things aren't getting resolved because of lack of communication. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars constantly with turnover and replacing employees, and you're missing out on great talent. It's one thing if talent's not great, but when you have great talent and they're leaving because maybe a missed other options are like bad behavior in other employees, when there are employees that are not doing well, or they have a bad attitude or whatever, and the boss refuses to address it, you're going to lose the good employees because of that. And I've seen that happen a lot of times. I'm one of them. I had an employee, I have two stories. There's been times where I've left because of a bad employee, happened to be the CEO. But the CEO also fired somebody or let them go because of this person's bad behavior. But it took 9 months of agony, 9 months of trying to articulate what this individual was doing to our entire team to finally get the CEO to notice, when actually that guy was just a symptom of the problem. The real problem was the CEO. He was the toxic culture person. He did not walk his talk. He just talked a lot.
So when communication intelligence is actually installed in a company, what have you found changes first?
I think what changes first is obviously the morale in the company. People are happy to come to work. They don't have that dreaded feeling when you get out of your car and you put your foot in the parking lot. You're like, okay, let's put on our happy face and dread through the day and walk through the door. I mean, I've had that a million times
Right.
myself, right? I think people are excited to be at work. They're advocates out in the community when they're out doing things to promote their business, and they're likely to stay longer to be able to gain the knowledge that they need to move on and move up within the company. But then also, they have respect for their bosses. They have a better relationship because they're able to communicate with them as long as the boss is willing to allow that to happen. And in those kinds of cases, it usually is. I've had
So,
situations like that too.
yeah. So, if a leader could fix only one communication habit this quarter, which one would move the needle the most for them and their team?
Okay, well, I'll give you an example of something because there could be a plethora
Perfect.
of ideas that come behind that. But I think it is leading with curiosity and not assuming that because an employee maybe had a bad day that they're in a bad mood or they're like cancerous to the team. Maybe sit down with them and take the time to really get to know them. I think people want to be known and they value authenticity, and I think a lot of times leaders can just breeze by your office and say, hey, how are you? And it's like an echo coming from them as they breeze by and don't really take the time to get to know the employee. So truly taking time and having true interest.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, when you say lead with curiosity, I know that means something to you and it may mean something to other people, but how would you define that, or how would you give us an example of what it looks like to lead with curiosity?
I think it's sitting down and asking questions, definitive questions that, or open-ended questions that your teammate or coworker or employee can answer, but do it with true authenticity. And curiosity means, understanding and leading with these questions to know the person better. There's a statement, it's like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's cliche as
Right.
if it's a quote, but it is incredibly true. And I don't think that leaders pay enough attention to it because there's so much pressure sometimes in the workplace to actually take the time. And it's about time, spending the time.
So, what would you say is more urgent now than it was even 3 or 5 years ago in the workplace?
Well, okay, so the workplace is changing drastically, right? We have so many different generations in the workplace and they all communicate differently and they all have different values. As baby boomers shift out with retirement, you're going to see more of the Gen Xers in the workplace, but millennials and Gen Zers are really driving the workforce. So, knowing what they value most in the workplace, I think is going to be beneficial to any business owner. And, Gen Zers value inclusivity. They value social responsibility. They value technology and being able to communicate on the apps and the websites, mainly apps, because they don't really use websites, but mainly apps and, those types of technology opportunities to communicate best. So it's really kind of meeting people where they are.
I would say along those lines that their drivers are different, right? What
Absolutely.
motivates them to perform is different. Gen X, we're pretty money motivated, money and time. If you give us money and time, we're happy clams.
Yep, that's
But
right.
these younger generations aren't necessarily motivated by money, sometimes by time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to know the difference, because if you offer a $500 bonus, you're only getting part of your team motivated. And
Right.
so maybe offering these flat bonuses or these flat rewards that is, like you said earlier, a one size fits all
Mm-hmm.
is not the right answer.
Right, right. I think that, based on cultural differences from age, right? Diverse in differences from through the generational difference. I guess I can say generational differences. I'm repeating myself with that word, but it really is a generational difference. And the younger generations, the Gen Zs, the Gen Ys, they don't They don't necessarily value money in the way that we did, or that baby boomers did, or even silent generation people did. And, Gen Zers are more likely to job hop because they want to make sure that their values align with the company. So that's another part of it. It's a different experience for Gen Zers where, we were just like taught as a Gen Xer to get in, work hard, do your thing, and, be loyal. Gen Zers don't see it that way. They want to feel valued. They want to be appreciated. They want authenticity from their leaders, and they want inclusivity. They really want
Okay.
inclusivity in decision making and being a part of the process.
So, what would you say? I mean, I love your newsletter. So, let's just go to that. I
Oh,
saw the
thanks.
sentence in your newsletter.
I was like, where did that come from? But I remember now. Yeah.
So, what is the one sentence that your clients keep editing out or softening up that they need to just go ahead and say?
Yeah, I think that we all have it varies. So I can't say it's like one
Okay.
sentence, right? But if you have to have a hard conversation with somebody, nobody wants to do that. No, I don't, unless you're just okay, yeah, we're gonna do it and get it out, right? But usually people tend to mull it over in their head multiple times and try to figure out what they really want to say and say it a different way, but have the same effect. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to have that hard conversation, and people are not willing to do that for the sake of hurting other people's feelings. They don't necessarily want to hurt other people's feelings. I used to work for an HR lady, or not for her, but for this company, and the HR lady in the company, I used to say she could walk you to the gates of hell and you would gladly go in. That's how well she would dismiss you from your job. And, that's the kind of leadership to make you not feel awful about what was going on, and that's needed. And that's not necessarily taught, or it can be taught. I take that back. It can be taught, but we all have a preferred method of communication. We just have to learn how to navigate it with different generations, with different people even. It's all different.
Sure, absolutely. I remember I used to tell people best of luck when they were going out to do something, and people would take it wrong. They would take it as me being shitty to them. I'm like, best of luck.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, wow, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
They
they didn't believe you meant it.
I didn't even know that they would take it in the wrong way. It seems like such a nice thing to say, right? But it's important to understand that we have a thought in our head. I tell my clients this too sometimes about their marketing. We fall in love with our product, or we fall in love with the words we're saying because it means something to us.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean something to the people who are hearing you.
Right.
Or who are trying to hear you.
Right.
So I want to wrap this up today with two things, Stephanie. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning that is very important to me is to thank you for your service. Your husband is a military man, and you have been married to the military for a long time. So we'd like to thank you both for your service and your sacrifice. And I'd like to acknowledge all of the work that you do to help and support our veterans and their families. Thank you for that.
Oh, thanks for saying that. That means a lot to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'd also love for you to let people know how they can get in touch with you, or if you have some tools or some information that they can grab. And just so the audience knows, we'll also put these links in the description on the podcast so you can find them there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm on YouTube. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm Stephanie Cologne on Facebook, and YouTube is Stephanie Cologne with some number behind it. I don't remember. I'll have to send it to you.
We'll drop the links. Don't worry, everybody.
Yeah,
so
great,
she's on YouTube.
Yeah, so
we'll drop her socials for you.
Thanks. Yeah, I also, people can email me hello@stephanie-cologne.com, and visit my website, stephanie-cologne.com. I have a newsletter if there's interest in that. I would love an email about that, because I've got to figure out how to get my subscribe button on my on my website. I got to tell my techie person. haven't done that yet. I just thought about it today. She was on vacation, so whatever. I got
no
it done.
worries.
But yeah, so that's a new thing I'm starting as well, as those newsletters that will go out. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's a great place to see a lot of my articles too. I write different newsletters. So what you're getting, Lisa, is strictly for women. And what I put on LinkedIn is totally different. And that is for, all genders. So, and for everyone really, because I want, that's more about the communication in the workplace and leadership and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's some differences there. I put focus on different things. Yeah. So thanks.
Excellent. We'll drop all those links in the description, everybody. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for honoring us with your time today. This has been amazing. To everybody else, be bold, be limitless, and be awesome.